Concerning the Russo-Ukrainian war, the Russians are taking a tremendous number of casualties on the other side of the equation, said Kalhol, the Pentagon's top policy official. He later reported that the Russians are probably taking 70 to 80,000 casualties in less than 6 months, which leads us to today's question, which is European strategic autonomy the answer to end the Russo-Ukrainian war? We know here in America, we've been faced with a lot of criticism involving ourselves in foreign wars like the Afghanistan war, which ended up in an abrupt leave due to the Taliban taking back control of the country. So for the most part, us Americans want to remain isolated. But in Europe, its autonomy and self-reliance wants to help end the Russo-Ukrainian war. Just last week, German Chancellor Alof just joined the chorus calling for a stronger, more sovereign geopolitical European Union, claiming that the West's focus has shifted to competition with China in the Indo-Pacific. He concluded that Europe is our future. So why is Europeans' autonomy the answer to end the Russo-Ukrainian war? Well, strengthening Ukrainians' defense and utilizing the European Union's strategic autonomy will be of critical importance to bringing an end to the war. In Ukraine, a war of attrition is dragging on longer and longer. While in the European Union, political decisions are being taken to aid Ukraine and its defense alongside taking economic actions against Russia. The EU is being tested on its ability to not only defend a democratic neighbor in a war of self-defense, but also its ability to do so in a united, autonomous manner. With a difficult winter ahead, as member states search for new energy sources and the Ukrainian resistance continues to fight, the EU should focus on continuing to aid the defense of Ukraine. At the same time, the Union must promote its own strategic autonomy and its ability to take its own political decisions on issues such as energy, sanctions, and humanitarian assistance, and lastly, on promoting liberal democratic values in all of its actions. The EU's strategic autonomy was at first described by the Council of the European Union as autonomy when and where necessary and when partners whenever possible. This is a concept with more implications than it might seem, as it does not only mean launching its own military and civilian operations, but also being able to take its own security decisions and building the capabilities for doing so. The EU must take such decisions while advocating for liberal democratic values, though. These very values that form the basis for the aid of Ukraine. The liberal obligation of the EU is to take a punitive stance towards the actions of Russia's government under Vladimir Putin, while not taking actions which will cause excessive suffering for the Russia civilians. For this reason, sanctions should remain targeted within the main objective of bringing an end to the current war in Ukraine, but also hindering the Russia's government ability to wage a war of this nature ever again. Resulting from the Russia invasion in Ukraine, the European Peace Facility instrument is being deployed to send lethal weapons and equipment to support Ukraine's effort in defending their homeland. This has been a united response by the EU in working together to ensure the ability of Ukraine's to defend itself. As the war becomes a protracted war of attrition, the EU should continue to increase its military aid to Ukraine. The war in Ukraine threatens the democratic future of the country as well as the standability of the EU and the European continent. Therefore, ensuring Ukraine's survival and maintaining its territorial sovereignty is the most important priority. Military aid is not the only component to aiding the Ukrainian people, nor is it the only area in which the EU can act strategically. Multiple EU member states border the country and are receiving the first wave of refugees. The EU should ensure a steadily integrated plan for accepting, integrating, and protecting these refugees. This should also be an opportunity for the EU to extend this aid to EMP countries also accepting Ukrainians, such as Moldova and Georgia. Working with these partners further promotes the EU's democratic and humanitarian values and norms with its neighborhood. In the end, many politicians and analysts have been arguing in the recent years that being highly vulnerable to the external shocks, that the European Union should boost its strategic autonomy and or develop a higher degree of European sovereignty. These concepts encompass a greater potential for independence, self-reliance, and resilience in a wide range of fields, such as defense, security, and trade, as well as in industrial, digital, economic, migration, and health policies. This occurrence tells us that European strategic autonomy is the best answer to end the Russo-Ukrainian war, not only for the future conflicts issues, but for the security of democracy among Europe. This will go a long way to the future of Europe and the autonomy of Europe to sustain itself for the future outcome of all of life of Europe. So please consider this question again. Is it worth it to have autonomy in Europe? Yes, and this is why. It is because without it, the Ukraine war will last longer and longer and Russia will win. But with the autonomy of Europe can sustain Ukraine's military support by giving support via military resources or by sanctioning Russia. By these strategies, Ukraine is able to war and overthrow Russia, a communist country that can break Europe. So again, the answer is autonomy. Thank you.